He was always polite, quiet, just a teenager who waved from across the driveway. But that morning, the way he looked at her, something shifted, and I felt it in my bones. My name is Dan Miller. I'm 45 years old, and I live in the north end of Austin, Texas. One of those neighborhoods with cul-de-sacs and annual block parties, where lawns are neatly trimmed, trash bins roll out on Tuesdays, and people wave without really knowing each other. A safe place. At least it felt like one. I'm married to Claire. We've been together 17 years. We have a son, Aiden, 13, smart kid, into robotics and chess. I work in finance, corporate risk management. Claire stays home, not by force or necessity. It was a choice she made when Aiden was born. She said she wanted to be present, not distracted by deadlines and status meetings. I respected that. Still do. Our life wasn't extraordinary, but it was stable, routine. There were mornings where the coffee was too bitter, or nights where the silence between us felt heavier than sleep. But that's marriage, isn't it? A long stretch of quiet miles interrupted occasionally by storms you weather together, until something starts to feel off. It was subtle at first. Claire started wearing perfume again, the kind she used in our early years. She'd apply it before grocery runs, or walks to clear her head. She started using headphones more often, smiling at her phone, laughing when no one else was in the room. I didn't question it. I rationalized. Maybe she was texting a friend. Maybe she needed that alone time more than usual. Parenting a teenager isn't light work, but when she began checking the mailbox in the late evenings, claiming she forgot earlier, and coming back with nothing in hand, I felt something cold press against the back of my neck. Our neighbors to the left, the Hendersons, had moved out the year before. Their house was bought by a couple in their 40s with a son named Tyler. He was 19, lanky, polite, waved at us whenever he was home from school, helped his dad build a pergola in the backyard. Claire always said he was sweet, such a respectful young man. I didn't think much of it. Why would I? But on the morning of June 12th, something shifted. I came down early, around 6:30. The sun hadn't yet burned through the morning haze. I stood at the kitchen window, sipping coffee, watching the condensation form lazy rivers on the glass. Claire was outside, still in her robe, standing at the edge of the driveway, and there was Tyler, shirtless, jogging by. He stopped. They exchanged a few words I couldn't hear. Then he smiled. Not a neighborly smile. Not a teenager thanking you for letting him use your tools smile. No, this was something else. Something practiced, confident. She laughed, and for a second her hand touched his forearm. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't scandalous, but it was wrong, intimate, in a way that doesn't belong in driveways between married women and teenage neighbors. She didn't see me watching. I stayed there still as stone, my coffee cooling in my hand. Something in me clenched, not quite jealousy, not even anger, just this strange hollow sense of premonition. That morning I didn't mention it, but we ate breakfast like always. She packed Aiden's lunch, kissed him on the head, told him to remember his water bottle, but her eyes darted to her phone twice before we even finished the eggs. And that night, when we got in bed, she turned her body away from me. Not rudely, just turned. And for the first time in years, I lay awake longer than I should have, staring into the dark, listening to her slow, steady breathing, while my mind buzzed with possibilities I didn't want to name. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I got out of bed around 3 a.m., wandered downstairs, and sat in the living room without turning on any lights, just stared into the dark. I could feel the silence in my bones. That kind of silence isn't peaceful. It's the kind that wraps around your ribs and squeezes. The next day, I told myself it was nothing. I buried it, tried to. But then the next morning came, and the next, and I started noticing more things. Claire's mood had changed. She was distant but not angry, distracted. Her phone was always with her now, even in the bathroom. She used to leave it charging in the kitchen overnight. Now it slept beside her pillow. Little things. She stopped watching our shows, claimed she was too tired, or that she'd already seen the episode. She began dressing differently. More effort, more makeup for quick errands. I remember watching her touch up her eyeliner before heading to pick up some almond milk. Who wears eyeliner for the grocery store? But I said nothing, because if I asked and she said nothing was wrong, then it would become my problem, my paranoia, my insecurity. and if she admitted something was wrong, then my world would crack wide open. So I stayed silent. I watched, and each day I slept a little less. She started taking more walks. That was the next thing I noticed. Not for fitness, not with a purpose. Just long, aimless loops around the neighborhood, always in the late afternoon. Always right after Tyler's car pulled into his driveway from wherever he'd gone that day. It was mid-June in Austin, which meant stepping outside for more than 10 minutes invited heat stroke. But Claire would be gone for 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. She'd come back with flushed cheeks and a distant look. If I asked where she went, she'd wave it off. Just needed air, she'd say, or just stretching my legs. But her Fitbit, which she synced to my phone months ago when she wanted accountability, kept logging her steps, and I watched them climb on those days. 9,000, 12,000. One day she hit 15,000. No shopping bags, no groceries, just walking. She also started mentioning Tyler more, not often, but just enough. I saw Tyler mowing their yard today. He's so responsible for his age. Or Tyler's mom said he might be applying to UT Austin. He's really grown up this year. I nodded, said nothing. What could I say? I wasn't going to accuse her of anything based on her admiration of the neighbor kid, but it wasn't admiration. It was something else. Reverence, maybe. Softness in her voice I hadn't heard in a while. One Thursday afternoon, I came home early. I wanted to surprise her, take her and Aiden out to dinner. I had flowers, the cheap kind but bright and cheerful. I parked quietly, walked to the door, and as I reached for the knob, I heard voices, hers, laughing. I paused. Through the slightly ajar window near the porch, I could see into the kitchen. Claire was leaning against the counter, laughing. Tyler stood near the fridge, a bottle of water in hand, smiling, not sheepishly, not awkwardly, but with the casual familiarity of someone who'd been there before, many times. She reached for his hand. Just for a moment, he didn't pull away. I stood there, flowers in hand, watching like a ghost. Then I opened the door. They both looked startled. Claire recovered quickly. "Oh hey," she said brightly. "Tyler just dropped by to see if we had any spare rosemary for his mom." "We did," Tyler said, holding up a sprig. I nodded. "Nice timing," I said flatly. "I was just thinking about dinner." Tyler made some excuse and left quickly. Claire watched him go, then turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're home early. Wanted to take you both out." "That's sweet," she said. "Let me just freshen up." I threw the flowers in the trash when she wasn't looking. After that I started watching more carefully. I began noting patterns. When Tyler's car was gone, Claire would stay inside. When he was home she'd invent reasons to be outside. Garden gloves went on, even though it was too hot to dig anything. She'd sweep the porch, water the grass by hand, lean over flower beds in those shorts she hadn't worn since college. One night, as we lay in bed, I asked gently, "How's everything?" She turned surprised. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. You seem distracted lately." She gave a small laugh. "I think you're projecting. You've been on edge for weeks." I nodded. "Maybe." She rolled over, ended the conversation. I didn't sleep much that night either. A few days later, a delivery came. Claire had ordered a book. The package had her name, but I opened it by mistake thinking it was mine. The book was a novel, romantic fiction. On the front cover, a shirtless man, windblown, sunlit. The title, Summer Heat. I flipped it open. There was a receipt tucked inside, not from Amazon, but from a local bookstore downtown, and it had a note scribbled in blue ink. "Claire, I think you'll like this one." I stared at that single letter. My throat went dry. I placed the book back in the box and left it on the kitchen table. She found it an hour later, said nothing, but when I walked into the room, she had already moved it, disappeared like it had never arrived. That night, she was unusually affectionate, touched my arm during dinner, laughed at a joke I made, reached for my hand as we walked to bed, and yet all I felt was that note, that single initial, floating between us like a phantom. The next morning I checked her phone while she showered. Nothing. Cleared call logs. No messages, no photos, except one, buried deep in a hidden folder. One image remained. It was a photo of our backyard, taken from inside the house. The angle looked toward the fence. Tyler was visible, shirtless, pushing a wheelbarrow. Claire had zoomed in. I closed the phone and placed it exactly where she left it. I felt nothing, not rage, not sorrow, just a strange stillness, like being inside the eye of a storm that hadn't touched down yet. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to see how far she was willing to go. She was careful. I have to give her that. She changed her passcode, started locking her drawers, kept her phone on silent, wore that casual calm like a well-fitted blazer. To anyone else, she was just a tired wife, a dedicated mother, someone balancing home and heat and mood swings. But I knew better, or rather I was beginning to, and so I stopped asking questions. I stopped probing. I smiled more, kissed her goodnight, made dinner some evenings, became dependable and visible. That's the secret when you want the truth. You disappear from the radar, and while she relaxed into this false sense of safety, I got to work. First, the devices. Claire had synced her old iPad to our Wi-Fi a year ago when her phone was being repaired. She forgot about it. I hadn't. I powered it on late one night in the garage, under the soft hum of a single bulb, and reconnected it. Most apps were empty, scrubbed clean, but Notes was untouched. There were entries, snippets, paragraphs. One read, "You make me feel like I'm 19 again." Not Claire the wife, not Claire the mom, just Claire. Another, "We can't keep doing this forever, but I'm not ready to stop, not yet." One simply said, "Smelled like sun and soap." I sat there for a long time, reading, not breathing. The next day I transferred money into a new checking account, separate from the joint one. Then I called a friend from college, now a private investigator in San Antonio. We met for coffee. I didn't give the whole story, just enough. He listened, nodded, said he'd handle it. Discretion guaranteed. By the following Friday I had GPS tracking installed under Claire's car. I told myself it was temporary, that maybe nothing would come of it. But the night I saw her delete a text message while laughing, the same hollow, tight laugh she used to use with me during our first dates, I knew. The PI sent his first batch of reports 2 weeks in. Photos. Claire, at a cafe. Not with Tyler, but with his mother. Then with Tyler again. 2 days later. They weren't touching. Not in those pictures. But they were close. Too close. Faces leaned inward, shared desserts, lingered goodbyes. I asked for more. I started keeping a log, every time she left the house, every outfit, every call, every excuse. It became its own language, a symphony of deception I could now decipher. One night, while she showered, I checked her car. Under the passenger seat, tucked in a small pouch, a hotel key card. No logo, just a number 307. I looked it up. Boutique place, 20 minutes away. Not the kind of spot for a married woman to drop by during errands. I didn't confront her. I booked a room in the same hotel the next week, a different night, same floor. I tipped the concierge generously. I asked about guests. I asked about patterns. He told me about a woman who came by every Thursday afternoon, always alone. Same room, room 307. My hands didn't shake, my breath didn't hitch. It was as if I had rehearsed this all my life. I installed a motion sensor camera outside the room, hidden, discreet. The footage arrived 2 days later. Claire, entering alone. An hour later, Tyler, baseball cap, sunglasses, entered quickly, didn't knock, stayed 2 hours, left first. Claire followed 10 minutes later. I watched that video 10 times, not because I needed confirmation, but because I wanted to memorize the moment the illusion broke, the moment my marriage dissolved, not with a shout, but with the silent click of a hotel door. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek, said she was going to the farmer's market. I nodded, told her to bring back those peaches I liked. She smiled. I had already packed a suitcase, stored in the back of my car. I updated the will, moved half our savings to the private account, set alerts for every transaction she made, installed software that copied every text she received to a cloud backup. It became less about her, and more about the architecture of betrayal, the shape it takes, the rhythm of it, the patterns you can trace like a map, a study of dishonesty. And yet part of me still hoped she'd stop, that she'd come to me, cry, confess, say it was a mistake, that she missed who we were. She never did. She smiled more, wore brighter colors, called me babe again, as if to cover the scent of him on her skin. I started replying in kind, touched her waist as I passed, complimented her food, played the role, because I needed her to believe I was blind, because blind men don't strike until it's too late. And then one Wednesday afternoon it arrived. A flash drive. The PI had captured audio. A phone call. Claire, talking to someone. Voice soft, adoring. You make me feel like I'm not invisible, like someone still sees me. Tyler laughing. You were never invisible, just shelved. I unshelved you. I wish I could be with you all the time. We will, soon. I paused the recording. That was the moment I stopped being married. I slid the second folder forward, neatly tabbed, professionally compiled. These are the divorce papers. You'll find the terms generous. You keep the house, the car, joint custody, but Aiden stays here during the school year. I'll cover tuition, insurance, all medical expenses. She flipped through the pages in stunned silence. The one condition, I continued, is that you sign today. No lawyers, no delays, no spectacle. We do this clean, quiet. For Aiden, she finally sat. Her knees buckled more than bent. She set her hands on the desk like she might faint. You were always so thorough, she whispered. That's what you liked about me, until it turned against you. Her eyes found mine. Dan, I didn't mean to. Yes, you did. Silence. She signed. I stood and left the room. Aiden was on the couch, controller in hand, zoned into some game. I knelt beside him, kissed his head. I'll be back tomorrow. You be good for mom, okay? He looked at me. Are you traveling again? Just a night. Grown-up stuff. He nodded and turned back to the screen. Upstairs I packed a single duffel bag. Already had a condo lined up. Temporary. Quiet. Claire didn't come out. She didn't follow me. She just sat in that room with her signature ink drying on her betrayal. 3 weeks later, word got around. Neighbors asked. I said nothing. Just smiled. We'd had differences. That was enough. Tyler vanished. Or maybe his parents sent him off somewhere else. Either way, his car stopped showing up. Claire shrank. Not visibly, but in essence, less color, less presence. She started waving less, closed blinds more, began shrinking under the weight of her new title. The wife who chose a child. Aiden didn't ask much. Children don't need the full picture to feel the shift in air pressure. He just hugged me harder when I picked him up, lingered longer at drop-offs. I let him. One evening in September, Claire called, voice shaking. She said she regretted everything, said she missed our life, missed being seen, heard, said she'd made a mistake. I never stopped loving you, she said. I paused. But I stopped loving you, I replied. Somewhere between the deleted texts and the hotel room, I stopped, and I haven't missed it. She cried. I listened, and then I hung up. People ask if I feel vindicated, if I feel triumphant. The answer is no. I feel clean. Freedom isn't loud. It isn't proud. It's the sound of keys turning in a door you own alone. The peace of not wondering where someone is. The joy of knowing your silence is yours again. Claire was the love of my life, and then she wasn't, and I survived it. 3 weeks later, word got around. Neighbors asked. I said nothing, just smiled. We'd had differences. That was enough. Tyler vanished, or maybe his parents sent him off somewhere else. Either way, his car stopped showing up. Claire shrank. Not visibly, but in essence, less color, less presence. She started waving less, closed blinds more, began shrinking under the weight of her new title. The wife who chose a child. Aiden didn't ask much. Children don't need the full picture to feel the shift in air pressure. He just hugged me harder when I picked him up, lingered longer at drop-offs. I let him. One evening in September, Claire called, voice shaking. She said she regretted everything, said she missed our life, missed being seen, heard, said she'd made a mistake. I never stopped loving you, she said. I paused. But I stopped loving you, I replied. Somewhere between the deleted texts and the hotel room, I stopped, and I haven't missed it. She cried. I listened, and then I hung up. People ask if I feel vindicated, if I feel triumphant. The answer is no. I feel clean. Freedom isn't loud. It isn't proud. It's the sound of keys turning in a door you own alone. The peace of not wondering where someone is. The joy of knowing your silence is yours again. Claire was the love of my life, and then she wasn't, and I survived it.